day, grade 11s, and today's math lesson is all about trig equations where we need to solve the unknown value. In this case it will be theta, and the angles that we're going to work with or between is actually between 0 degrees and 360 degrees. Now just to recap on the unit circle that we worked before, it's my Cartesian plane. Here I have quadrant number 1, 2, 3 and 4. And up till now we've been working in quadrant number 1, and let's start there then. So for instance we have this angle over here and we call it theta, and we should construct our little triangle that will help us to find the other sides as well. And we know that sine theta is the y value over my hypotenuse. I'm calling it r over here. So that means I have 1 over there and I have 2 over there. Why are we looking for another angle between 0 and 360 is because there will be another angle that will satisfy this equation of ours. Just look at this. If we go horizontally towards this side, we will also find a triangle in my second quadrant that will have the same dimensions as the one in my first quadrant. This side will also be 1, and remember my hypotenuse stays the same, it will also be 2. And this is still my y value over here, and this is also my y value over there. It stays 1 there and 1 there. My hypotenuse stays 2 and 2. And that gives me the answer of sine theta equals to 1 over 2. So it will be this angle over here that will give me a half, but also this angle over here will also give me the same answer. Now what we need to do is, first of all, we need to calculate my reference angle. Let's call it RA, reference angle. And my reference angle, I always work with the positive value. Why do I name it here over here? The second example, we're going to work with negative values. Then you will see what's going to happen. Okay. Right, so first of all, let's grab our calculator and we get our value for theta. In this case, it will be a half. And we will find our reference angle, always the positive value. And we'll see that the value that we get is 30 degrees. So that is my reference angle at this stage. I'm going to use my reference angle to determine my value in my first quadrant as well as in my second quadrant. Why is that? Because sine is positive in my first and in my second quadrant. If we refer back to our cast model over here, that we will see. Everything, all, is positive in my first quadrant. Sine is positive in my first and in my second quadrant. Tan is positive in my first and in my third, and cos in my first and in my fourth quadrant. So I'm going to work in 2 quadrants now. For sine, we will work in my first and in my second quadrant to determine the angle of theta then. So first of all, we're going to work in quadrant number 1. So quadrant number 1 is very easy. So theta is actually equal to my reference angle. In this case, it will be 30 degrees. But I'm also looking for an angle in my second quadrant. And in my second quadrant, we work with 180 minus my reference angle. We did lessons on the reduction formulae. Just to refresh you, that's sine 180 minus theta is equal to the sine of theta. Okay, so that means that sine theta is equal to a half over there, but I will have 2 angles. This one refers to my second quadrant then. So all I need to do is, my reference angle over there, I've determined it as 30 degrees, so it will be 180 minus 30 degrees, and that gives me an answer of 150. So this theta over here is 30 degrees, and this angle over here is 150. So if you should grab your calculator, you can test it by plugging in these numbers, the 150 over here, and the 130. Both of them will give you 0,5 then. So my solution here is theta is element of 30 and 150 degrees.